This is gonna be the part 2 of an ongoing series of me covering the mask archetype as a mechanic, as well as how each of the unit perform with the mask engine in itself. So for this particular video, we're gonna be covering DBT10, which is essentially an introduction to mask unit. And to be honest, the mask unit that were reviewed are pretty mixed review in the sense that half of them are pretty damn good and the other half is kind of eh. My comment on this mask unit will be heavily based on how well the deck gel with the mask engine, as well as how good are they individually, cause sometimes there are cards that gel well with the deck but are just not good individually, and there are other way around as well. So if you guys enjoy this kind of content, consider clap that subscribe button as it will help me tremendously. And without further ado, let's start off with the very first mask unit that was revealed on the anime, Teasing Spiritualist Soga Mask. Soga Mask is quite an interesting specimen even among the mask unit, mainly because it's introduced the mask unit, but at the same time it set the standard a little bit too high for the subsequent mask unit, which, let's be real, are a little bit more mid than this particular card. So this card has 3 different constant skills, one of which is a restriction, and that is this card can only be written from a grade 3 with Soga in its name, and its other 2 skills is more or less related to its playstyle. When you would play a normal order, you can bind a normal order from your drop and Alchemagic. And last but not least, constant skill, if you did Alchemagic this turn, all of your front row unit gets 10k. And as a cherry on top, this unit also gets an additional ability. Act once per turn, remove a card with Soga and its different cards name from this unit from your hand, soul, or drop. Choose a card from your drop, call it to Record Circle if it's a unit, or put it into your hand if it's a normal order. Before we talk about Soga Mask himself, we have to talk about a few elements that make mask unit based on this card. Generally, there are 2 common denominators among all of the mask unit, and that is it can only be written upon a grade 3 version of the boss unit name, so for this case, Soga. It also have X skill that remove a non-mask version of themselves from hand, soul, or drop zone to activate certain skill. This particular constant skill is obviously a restriction to restrict the mask unit to be played in the main deck only instead of right deck. This is mainly due to the fact that these skills tends to be really busted if you are able to use it as a first grade 3 right targets. For the X skill, in my honest opinion, based on the DBT10 mask units, it's kind of like a tech skill that can be a hit or a miss in the sense that some of the decks actually require you to run multiple copy of non-mask version to actually activate the skill, as it helps the deck a lot, while there are cards like Soga Mask where you don't really need to use it as much. Moving back to Soga Mask, and in my honest opinion, it is a great card. Not only it is a straight up upgrade to the original version of Soga, it do a lot of things that is a very good quality of life for Soga as a deck. For one, it allows you to Alchemagic a lot easier, as you can play 2 orders with the same name to Alchemagic, and not only that, it works well as a turn 3 card if you're going first, mainly due to the fact that you actually can gain that 10k regardless of whether you're going first or second, allowing you to get that persona rights kind of power by turn 3 as well, if you're going first of course. Its removal skill is, in my opinion, one of the weakest link, but it does help a lot if you missing an order to do Alchemagic, or you do need to populate the field. So overall, it's a very good but very optional toolbox, thanks to the fact that Stoic Ear does have a lot of strong callback from drop zone option, as well as the order recycle option as well. Soga also gel very well with mask mechanic as a deck, to no one's surprise, mainly because of the fact that Mask of Hydrangram is a normal order card. This means that the Soga support can interact very well with the card itself, thanks to cards like Shadow Cloak that can mill it directly from deck to drop zone, and its own Dragon Tree support, Beast August, can actually recycle order from drop zone back to hand, allowing you to do a lot filter very well. Dragon Tree Marker also help the deck very well while still being a crucial part of the deck, due to the fact that there are cards like Roaming Prison Dragon that actually can benefit very well from the marker, and Kill Silvering that does require you to have a Dragon Tree Marker on your Record Circle to activate the skill, allowing the deck to go multi-attack. However, the mask mechanic doesn't fix the prevalent issue that Soga already has, namely if you have a brick hand thanks to overdrawing the order cards, or you cannot play almost anything thanks to the fact that you did not get any order card at all. As much as there are a lot of cards that allow you to circumvent the issue, these problems still come up here and there due to the fact that you do have to run a lot of brick in your deck. So here is my take on Soga Mask. I have to say this first, but I would say that the order lineup is up to the way player preferred because you can go thousands way of playing this particular deck. I decided to run a little bit more draw than usual so that I can make sure that I draw into all the key cards I need, while at the same time I have some cost to essentially, guard for other stuff as well. But yeah, it's definitely far from being perfect, so if you guys have other suggestions for other people who watch this video, do leave down in the comments as well. In my honest opinion, after I saw Sorghum Mask for the first time, my excitement was like at the peak, because if the next unit really lands, it is gonna be one of the greatest return of a reverse S kind of like successor ever. But unfortunately, just like Penguin Zero Drama with the YouTuber, I'm not sure it's still YouTuber or not, but the guy with the S name, I got cucked really hard. Sino Almagesta Astria Baiko Mask has 3 abilities, one of which is the constant restriction, and the act once per turn remove Astria from hand, soul or drop. Those has to be non-Baiko Mask. Choose one of your opponent rare card, retire it, and this unit get drive +1 until the end of turn. And last ability, when this unit attack auto, counter blast 1, soul blast 3, bind all of the critical triggers, use soul blaster for this cost, and choose one of your rare cards, stand it, and that unit and this unit power gets additional 5k for every 2 critical triggers in your bind zone. This is gonna be very controversial, but I personally do not like Baiko on launch. Let me explain why. You see, Baiko is actually a very good card to where it's due, mainly due to the fact that it can gain a lot of resource quite easily. It does have a convenient way of gaining drive check. It does have a convenient way of restanding and does give a small power boost to those restand units, but it is a tempo card. The problem with the Almagesta at the moment is that Almagesta, when it was launched, it seemed to be leaning more toward a control playstyle with cards like Clean Sweep or any of the retire option. But Baiko literally come in and I want to be a tempo deck. That's where the problem really lies, as the deck did not have enough time to adjust to this brand new playstyle. Not only that, the mask mechanic is actually hurting this deck more so than the other deck that was featured in the DBT10, due to the fact that the deck has very limited soul at the first few turns, and this thing squeezed out for more, and that actually hurts the deck quite a bit, because that means that there's a chance that if you're not being careful with the way you play your souls or your counter blast, you will definitely miss your first Baiko turn. And not only that, Almagesta as a deck still doesn't have a card that fixes one of the biggest issue that the deck has currently, and that is the fact that it's either you review way too much trigger early game, or you doesn't have enough soul to really recycle. And Baiko use actually less soul than Unica, and it still have that kind of issue. However, fortunately, in the next month festival collection, we did get Crawling Dragon, which does fix that issue to an extent and does gel the control and a tempo kind of playstyle a little bit better. So I would say that Baiko at the moment is not a very good deck, but over time, if there are more units that does gel the playstyle better, it is gonna be a very solid deck that you shouldn't look away. And here is my deck list for Baiko Mask at the moment. This does consider the Crawling Dragon, so this might not be an ideal deck list for the DBT10 on launch, but you can technically replace Crucial Dragon with cards like Clean Sweep if you want, or anything that does do some kind of like free control or free high attack. That would help in the deck as well. So I decided to run Zargon in this deck as a way to exert the pressure while still gain a lot of soul resource that it does really need back. And it's also free card. I also decided not to run the K2s that came with the DBT10 because that card require a little bit too high of a cost. I rather go for a consistent trigger soul charge with Capricornus. Next up, we have Servitude of Funeral Possession Lion Mask, and fortunately, this is a spicy one. She has 3 abilities, one of which is the constant restriction we have with all of the other masks in it, and then act once per turn, remove non-Lion mask Lion from hand, soul or drop zone, then choose one of your grade 1 or less card from your drop, call it to rare card circle, and then retire one of the opponent rare card. Then when this unit attacks, choose up to 3 of your stand back row rare card with boost ability, and boost this unit with all of those units. And if you boost 3 or more units with this ability this turn, at the end of that battle, counter blast 1, choose 2 of your rare card and stand them. Lion Mask is very interesting in the sense that it does gain a lot of plus, but at the same time it does gain one significant minus that I feel it's significant enough for the deck to be affected, but it doesn't outweigh the plus that it got. The minus is the fact that the deck is a lot more counterblast heavy, as well as it does lose that drive from the Lion's effect. However, if you think about card economy wise, you didn't really lose much, it's just that you lose that one potential drive that maybe is a trigger. However, the advantage that this thing gains is actually quite a lot, as it does turn from 4 attack deck with Resonance into 5 attack deck on its own and 6 attack deck if you choose to go with Resonance and Trigominal Assault engine. Not only that, it also has ability to just spawn 1 back row, allowing you to consistently get a 3 boost. And not only that, it does retire, and target retire is a little bit underrated in the sense that you can always get rid of the key piece that opponent will need, and that will definitely affect the flow of the game for sure. And here is my take on Lion Mask. I decided to go more toward rebuilding the board as quickly as you can, because one of the biggest issue with the deck is control, and there is one scary control deck out there that is coming on DBT10. So I decided to go for a more faster board building kind of build instead of a more YOLO build with Resonance and Trigominal Assault. The only problem with this build, I would say, is that it is definitely more expensive. So if you decided to go with that route, you technically have to opt out your Emblea because of that reason. But overall, I would say this: if you manage to get all this card, it is a very solid build, and you can kind of play around with your trigger lineup. I just prefer a little bit more draw, cause you know, you can draw into your key piece a bit faster. Last and considerably least favorite mask unit among the community, and for me, he's on definitely on the lower side as well. Karmic Demonic Jewel Dragon Drageo Mask. He has 3 abilities, one of which is a constant restriction that all the mask unit has, and then act once button, remove non-Drageo Mask Drageo unit from your hand, soul, or drop. Choose 2 cards from your drop zone, put them into your soul, and this unit get 1 crit until the end of turn. Then auto Vanguard, when this unit attack a Vanguard, counter blast 1, so blast 4 with different grades. Choose 2 of your opponent Vanguard and retire them. Then choose 1 of your opponent Vanguard, reduce their power to 1 until the end of turn. Let's address the big elephant in this room. Drageo Mask is Drageo with extra step, a very controversial extra steps. You see, one of the steps is it can retire 2 now, but I feel it doesn't work a counter blast, as the deck already used a lot to begin with. But its other steps is actually pretty damn good, as not only it has ability to soul fixing better than the original Drageo, the crit that it gains is actually non-restrictive, so you can use it on turn 3 if you're going first, allowing you to exert a much better pressure on the opponent in the earlier part of the game. When it comes to mixing mask mechanic with this deck, I would say it fit a little bit better than Baiko on launch, due to the fact that Drageo Mask is a perfect replacement to Restore Gala, which is a card that I think a lot of Drageo decklists do run. So you essentially just replace that, put in Drageo Mask, and you do more or less the same thing minus the draw. Yes, the deck did get Cranium Burner, which is a very powerful counter charger, but I feel that it is not enough to salvage the counter blast issue that the deck still has. And let's be real, you still need to rely on the Dragon Tree marker, so more counter blast and soul has to be used. Fortunately, the remove skill does kind of alleviate the soul part. It's just that the counter blast part is still very painful for this particular deck. To conclude, and this is gonna be a very controversial conclusion, Drageo Mask is better than Baiko on launch, so when DBT10 drop, but it definitely will not last. And here is my take on Drageo Mask. I think this build might be quite friendly for a lot of players who do want to play Drageo Mask but do not have enough budget to get every single card you need, as you ran out of money already after you buy Mask of Hydrangram. Well, this build kind of works in a sense that Rock Agua gets to the quite a decent high number and does help with Sargon, which does pressure the opponent to guard, or if they let that through, you get more resource. I also opted for Ganganram instead of 4K that I used to play, as that card allows you to get that draw power that Drageo is missing, and I would say that it is better than that one common card that they actually give to Drageo to support. But if you do not have Ganganram, that works kind of as like a replacement, but I would say that it is not as effective as Ganganram because you can use the draw effect consistently, as Drageo already built a lot amount of soul, and with all these combos together, you will more or less have by the end of turn enough resource to get into the next Drageo effects next turn. And we have come to an end of part 2 of the multiple series of my thoughts on mask archetype in general. In my honest opinion, it is quite a lukewarm start for the mask as a mechanic, as there are cards that really hit the park and there are cards that doesn't really hit the park as well as the others. So what do you guys think about all these mask units? Do leave down in the comments below, as I'm fully aware some of the statements I made in this video can be pretty damn spicy. So I do want to see you guys spicy take as well. And yeah, that's all I have for today guys. Take care of yourself, and this is McMegane signing out.